Leanne is in our studio now with our amazing people of the week, a couple dedicated to adults with intellectual disabilities. Leanne.
Carol Ann, Keenan, Wellar, and Julie Kingstone are a team in every sense of the word. They started the nonprofit charity LiveWorkPlay 20 years ago. We're going to tell you about it. It's all about community and connection.
If, as Robert Burns says, the purpose of life is a life of purpose,
you might recognize some people.
for Keenan, Wellar, and Julie Kingstone, the purpose is clear.
We're helping people who are often excluded from community to be a part of it.
Meaningful, reciprocal relationships.
That's a dynamic young couple who have changed lives all over.
They co-founded an organization called LiveWorkPlay.
It's about living in an apartment, having a job, and having friends.
It is a calling, and it's more of a mission to make this community better.
This is old times here.
They are now looking back over 20 years of memories, moments they helped create for people with intellectual disabilities, people who needed support and community.
I don't think either of us set out to start a nonprofit charitable organization.
Less of a plan and more of a falling into a passion for solving problems.
Surprise!
Hi, Carolyn.
Hello.
Problems like where to live.
They help me move on my own.
And I like the TV.
How do you describe LiveWorkPlay?
Live, work, play is like family. I wouldn't know what I would do without them. Live, work, play has been my life-saving. It's Carolyn's life-saving.
This is my boss, Vaughn McKinney.
Helping with an employment fit.
I feel part of the community, and I feel good about myself.
You see people who have been told over and over and over again by teachers, by well-meaning family members, by well-meaning people, that this isn't going to happen for you. And just to see how, when that does happen for people, how it changes their lives.
I've changed a lot since I started, and I'm happy with the growth I've made.
The play component of Live, Work, Play is all about social connection.
It gives me peace of mind knowing that if something should happen to my husband and I, he has a group of people who really care about him.
I wouldn't know what I would do without them. I'd be probably feeling lonely and no friends.
Keenan and Julie live, work, play together, always. As the organization grew, so did their commitment to each other.
The bottom line is, I love you.
They married. Even a wedding speech acknowledging time spent together at the office.
It turns out most couples spend on average about 4 hours a day, actual contact time. But for us, it's 16.
It was kind of like a Live, Work, Play event with some family members who came along.
Their union, personally and professionally, has enhanced many lives.
Here we are 20 years later with supporting over 100 people and 135 volunteers and 12 staff.
Their work has been acknowledged, awards received, but for Keenan and Julie, still the simplest of successes make all the difference.
Welcome to your new place. People that get the key to their new apartment, people that get their first job or their first paycheck, but also things like people that make a real friend.
Well, it is great to have Julie and Keenan in studio with part of the family, and it's a great extended family. You can see there's always a lot of laughter with Live, Work, Play, and Cooper just came forward and said, I was at your wedding. Good flashback for you, wasn't it?
Isn't it though?
Well, Julie and Keenan, I know last night you weren't actually able to see the story when it went to air because you were at one of your annual fundraisers,
Correct.
Which went really well.
It did. It was a great time. Yeah, we raised about $40,000. So.
Well, we're going to introduce all of these players because the organization, as we said in the story, is all about relationships. And a lot of you have had long-term relationships. Paul, you have known Julie and Keenan for a very long time.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and they mean a lot to you. Maybe you would explain.
Well, I could explain because usually before I get in my first time I get in, I met Keenan and Julie. They're wonderful, wonderful people.
Well, I know that you've become a spokesperson, and you actually speak. You work at Canada Mortgage and Housing?
Yes.
And have for a long time. Did Keenan and Julie help you with that job?
Oh, yes.
And your friend Nick, you're just learning about this organization, and Nick, your observations have been quite meaningful.
I can I can see the difference that LiveWorkPlay has made and is making in Paul's life.
And I feel like I'm blocking Cooper, and I don't want to block Cooper's life because you've been a part of this family for a long time.
Yes,
Cooper.
I have.
What have Julie and Keenan done for you, and how have they changed your life?
It's been great. Having a job of my own, working on my own, living on my own.
And where do you work?
I work at TD.
Great. Could I borrow some money?
You sure can.
It's always good to ask when you're on TV.
No, it's been great. It's been a good experience for everything.
And you know, Andrew, who's standing next to you, you are a huge part of the Live, Work, Play family. That's right. Keenan, we put the short fellow in the front. Hey, Andrew. Andrew, you're an employer. Tell us about your relationship and the relationship forged.
Sure. In 2009, I received a call from Jen Bosworth telling me about Live, Work, Play. I hadn't heard of it at the time. We met, and what she was saying resonated with me. So we've since gone on to hire several people to work at our different car dealerships, and you know, it's changed a lot of people's lives.
And I think for Keenan and Julie, I'll get you to turn around so we can get you back in the light. It's great for an employer like Andrew to mention that, because you say there was an element of invisibility for a long time that you observed.
Yes, and Andrew has actually gone on to become one of our champions. So he does employer-to-employer conversations, which is really important. That's how the community changes, when peers talk to each other about good things that are happening.
And Julie, when we come back, we'll sort of explain how this was a bit accidental. You had always been working in areas that were life-enhancing. Explain some of your volunteerism, because people will say, I know her, but where do I know her from?
Well, I think I was first inspired working as a young person at Christie Lake Camp, and for 7 summers getting involved with helping kids have a great summer experience and helping them get the skills to be contributors to our Ottawa community. So that's sort of where I got my inspiration as a young person and just continued.
We're going to come back. We're going to introduce this half of our studio, and we're also going to tell you about how this all happened quite accidentally for Keenan, Carol Ann.
Can't wait to hear that. Let's spend some more time with Leanne and the Live, Work, Play team.
And there are a lot of stories here, Carol Ann, a lot of stories, a lot of years, and a lot of lives improved, a lot of lives changed. I do have to have Keenan Wellar, though, share the story as to how this work really, I guess, found you, and it was all quite accidental, but very poignant.
Yes, well, for me, it had to do with misunderstanding a job advertisement, and I applied for the job, and they started asking me a lot of questions, which I didn't understand, and then I realized, okay, this is about a job of working with people with disabilities, and I got the job somehow, and realized it was the first time in my life I actually met a person with a label of autism or Down syndrome. And I went home that night and I was very excited because I really liked the job. But then I got really upset and sad because I realized for some reason all of these individuals in my community had been hidden from me for my entire life. And so I started asking a lot of questions. Why is this happening? How come I don't see these individuals in school or where I go in the community? And so if you really look at what Live, Work, Play is all about today, it's kind of asking that same question and trying to get the change we want to see, which is people working alongside other people and playing and enjoying themselves.
That's what we're seeing here. And actually, that is probably what led you, Paul, to becoming an advocate for people with Down syndrome. I know you speak at Canada Mortgage and Housing and other places as well.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so it really it just propels. The stories move along. And we have, on this side of our studio, we have Cecilia. You're a board member. You're a prof at Algonquin. Speak to the relationship and your observations of Keenan and Julian and Live, Work, Play.
So for me, what stands out from the clip that we were able to watch earlier is that none of the adjectives that were used were things that make they're all things that are described to Julie and Keenan regularly. They're creative. They've saved people's lives. They've made great differences in people's lives. It's not just 1 or 2 people who are saying this. You speak to anybody who's been touched by them, and this is what they say. They're analytical. They're problem solvers, and there's a lot of sacrifice in what they do, and yet they do it so willingly and with such passion and joy.
And you're able to speak to students at Algonquin as a prof there about the layers of meaning. You're standing next to a mom, though, Constance and Peter. Peter, I hadn't introduced you yet, and you not only have 1 job, you work at the Works, you have 3 jobs.
Well, I've got 2 other jobs. I work at Dress for Success on every single, I work at Dress for Success on every second weekend, and I also have this job, outdoor garbage condominium cleanup, work in the Westboro area of Ottawa.
You're the cleanup guy. Clearly, hey? And your mom's smiling because you've sort of seen a whole, I guess, transformation in Peter due to this organization.
Well, every parent wants their child to be out and successful and happy, and without Live, Work, Play, that wouldn't have happened. He's out there, he's got entertainment, he has recreation, he has friends, and he has a sense of terrific self-worth.
Fantastic.
Yeah, well, I've been with LWP since I was 13 because I joined in 1997 after I finished public school, and I was proud to meet Keenan and Julie back then.
And LWP is what we affectionately call, and I'm blocking you, Keenan.
all
Live,
right.
Work, Play. Jen, I know you've worked with Live, Work, Play for about 10 years. So Peter's story, Cooper's story, Paul's story, there are so many. Carolyn, who we met in the piece.
Yeah.
Describe the work and describe, I guess, the mentors.
Yeah, for sure. So I started about 10 years ago. There was 4 staff at the time. We've managed to grow. We have 12 staff and we support over 100 members, and it's a great place to work. I'm really passionate about what I do. Julie and Keenan are dynamic leaders, and it just sort of speaks to everything. Yeah.
We're so glad to have you all in studio. And you know what I love about this community is the more people in the community. I'm sorry, did I interrupt a nice hug back there? I ruined a TV moment. So sorry, Paul. The reactions you get, and as a result of people seeing the story, we know that there'll be more community partners. And congratulations to our amazing people this week. Carol Ann.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leanne.